Interview, we're talking about M-Pesa, Kenya's mobile money transfer service by your company Safaricom Limited, which has been ranked one of the most successful innovations of our time. In Kenya, M-Pesa is actually a verb, where if you're talking about sending money, you say, I'll M-Pesa you. And the reasons for success have been different, but for you as a company, what would you say has led to the success of M-Pesa?
I think the main reason it's a success is that it meets a very well-defined need. When it was launched back in 8 years ago, the need was to move money from town to country. The way that people used to do that is by putting it on a bus. It was a very cumbersome way. And so that was the initial need. But once people started to use it to move that money, they discovered countless other things that they could do with it, because we're a very cash-heavy society. And if you can get rid of cash, you can then get rid of the insecurity and the cost, the heavy cost of moving cash. So we used to send money to our mothers. Now we pay for taxis. So if you want to get an Uber or a little cab, then you pay by M-Pesa. If you want to pay school fees, you pay by M-Pesa. If you go to a restaurant, you pay by M-Pesa. If you want to save money, you do it via M-Pesa, so you use M-Shwari. And M-Shwari allows you to send as little as $1, to save as little as $1, because we've gotten rid of the building that you need for a bank. And then you get a higher interest rate, actually, if you use M-Pesa than if you go into a bank. You can borrow money using M-Pesa. You'll be able to buy government bonds and stocks and shares using M-Pesa. You can pay for your electricity bill using M-Pesa. So anything you can use cash for, you can use M-Pesa.
Who is on M-Pesa? Who sends money via M-Pesa?
There's a myth amongst non-Kenyans about who uses M-Pesa. Everybody assumes that it's for the unbanked. Actually, I use M-Pesa probably more than anyone else. Because you send money to your driver, maybe to your gardener at home, you send money to pay school fees. And so the reality is more than 90% of the Kenyan population have used M-Pesa. It's not just for people who don't have bank accounts. It's not a banking product.
So with 22 million subscribers, do you mean all your 22 million subscribers are on M-Pesa, or they send money via M-Pesa?
Safaricom has about 25 million customers in all, and out of those, about 22 million have been registered to use M-Pesa at least once.
How much do you move on a daily basis through the phones?
Every day we're moving at about $170 million per day. The frequency of transactions could be as high as 600 transactions every second. If you take the loans and the opening of bank accounts using M-Pesa, every second a new loan is authorized in this country using M-Pesa.
The concern for some is that with the microfinance institutions, the ones that would save the $1 that you're talking about, are you not going to put these microfinance institutions and even banks out of business?
No, I think the business, the market is big enough for many, many players. And even now you have a lot of microfinance players, a lot of banks who are using mobile money. So I think the market is big enough, because don't forget that 90+% of transactions are cash related. And so there's a very big market for us all to go tackle.
Do I need a smartphone to send money over M-Pesa? What kind of a phone do I need?
We've opened up the Kenyan psyche to do more transactions using a mobile phone. And the other big myth that we have with M-Pesa is that people talk about apps. So whenever people talk about innovation, they said, do an app. The reality is that this is the phone that people use to send M-Pesa. Most of my customers are actually using a simple phone like this. And so you don't need something which is terribly, terribly complicated. And this is a $10 phone.
So you don't need to have a smartphone to run money?
M-Pesa was designed before smartphones were designed, effectively. And so most of our innovations in Safaricom is built around using a smartphone, because this is what most of our customers are using.
Phone.
It's a text-based black and white phone for $10.
Just take us through the process of sending money via M-Pesa.
So the process obviously starts with cash, and you take your cash into an M-Pesa agent, and then you convert that to electronic cash. And then on your handset, you now have the $10 in electronic cash. You can then send, it's a little bit like sending a text message. You can then send that money to the other person, wherever in the world they might be. And that money gets sent as an electronic electronic parcel, if you like. The recipient will then take their phone into an agent, and they then transfer, again like sending a text message, they transfer the electronic wallet to the agent, and the agent will then give them the cash. That's in its simplest form. So what M-Pesa has also done is it's taken a lot of cash out of the informal sector and have formalized it. And one of the reasons why banks do like it is because that cash was just sitting as dirty money in the slums. Now that money sits properly in a bank account earning interest. Now we have over 100,000 of these human ATMs or M-Pesa agents. So if you imagine how many jobs have been created as a result of opening 100,000 agents and the convenience, we've shortened the access to money. So now you only have to walk to get to an M-Pesa agent. You don't have to get into public transport to get there. So we're really proud, not just about the number of jobs that we've created, but recently we had KPMG do an analysis for us, and have demonstrated that for every dollar which a customer spends in transaction fees, they save about $4. I don't know why M-Pesa didn't work in other markets, but I think that the rest of the world could probably look to Kenya with an open mind and can learn from us, because actually we have a very vibrant, sometimes overhyped for sure, but we have a very vibrant, innovative spirit in the country. And I think many countries around the world can look to Kenya to learn a thing or two.
What are the risks in a country and in a region where we're talking about terrorism and we're talking about piracy? Are you not worried that this system, which is not very well monitored, according to many, could then be used by terrorists, could be used by people to take advantage, to launder money, so to speak?
I think your question around money laundering is a very good question, and that's why we have some very strict regulations imposed by the Central Bank of Kenya. So, for example, you can only do the maximum transaction you can do is about $700, and you can do 2 of those a day. But if you have suspicious kind of transactions, so if you're doing too many of those, we have a system in place which will flag it up and will automatically flag it up to the central bank and to the law enforcement agencies. So, our fraud management systems are actually pretty sophisticated, but we do operate within a very regulated environment. And in order for you to use M-Pesa, we do need to know our customers. So you have to register, we have to know who you are, and you can track that much better than if you're trying to track cash, because cash, there's absolutely no traceability.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Mr. Bob Collymore, the CEO of Safaricom Limited, just taking us through M-Pesa, Safaricom's mobile money transfer service, telling us about the successes, the opportunities, and what he has learned through this service that Kenyans are crazy about.
Well, Senegal's heavily forested southern